that we had under the age of 5, I have a booming voice. And we don't need the amplifier here. It's been a crazy couple weeks, I will tell you that. And Dana Rohrabacher certainly played a big role in helping our campaign continue to move further along. And you know, I do joke about where this campaign has become and how far we have come. And it's due in part to Dana Rohrabacher. You know, he's a guy that has been flying under the radar for 28 years. And you guys know what he's been up to. You do. But a lot of people don't know what he's been up to. They don't know what his crazy positions have been in so many different areas, from climate change to women's rights to fighting for the decency of LGBTQ issues. And what is the biggest one? Russia. Absolutely. I'll tell you a couple exciting facts. You know in the primary that he won 30%. That's it. That is the worst performance of any incumbent in the state of California. The rule of thumb is that if an incumbent gets less than 50% in the primary, they're at risk. 70% of the voters voted for somebody else. 70% of the voters want somebody else besides Dana Rohrabacher. And the coolest thing is that in that vote, that primary vote, two cool things. One, in 2014, which was a midterm primary, so we compare that, not the presidential primary of 16, but you look at the 2014 midterm primary, and you look at the one we just had on June 5th. In 2014, 95,000 people. On June 5th, 175,000 people. Wow. That's actually more than the primary in 2016. And the second interesting piece of that I'm excited for all of us is that the difference between the Republican and the Democratic vote was less than about 2 percentage points. So that's great news, because the general, more Democrats come out. And so that right there tells us we're in a good place. But the news gets better. Did anybody see the Monmouth poll that just came out last week? Yeah. Right. So for those of you that didn't see it, Monmouth University does a lot of independent polling. And unbeknownst to us, they were actually doing polling in the 48th district, and they just released those poll results last week showing we're up 3%. So that's great. I'll share with you confidentially, because I'm sure you won't tell anybody, but we were just polling ourselves, and I just got some of the top line results literally before I drove over here. And it's in that same margin. If we just do a straight up ask, you know, who are you going to vote for, Dana Rohrabacher or Harley Rouda, we were down 3 points. And then what they do is they say, they do the bios. Okay, well here's Congressman Rohrabacher's bio, here's Harley's bio. Now how do you do it? Then we're down like a point. And then they do the negatives on Harley. I'm not sure what those are, but they do those negatives, and then I'm down, I think it was 3 or 4 points. And then they add the negatives back to Dana Rohrabacher, and then we're up about 5 or 6 points. So that's good. I don't know how long people have to stay on the phone to listen to Dana Rohrabacher's negatives, but it's probably and then the other interesting thing in that polling we just did was that it was skewed towards Republican voters. So it did not represent the actual voting electorate. It was, again, skewed towards Republicans. So to get that kind of result, we're excited. But let me tell you why we think that polling numbers are coming out that way. This is really the crux of not just this election, but all of these elections across the United States for the House and the Senate. If you'd asked me 60, 90 days ago, what are the most important issues facing the constituents of the 48th District, or even other people across the United States, you could list them off the same way I can. Declining middle class, fighting for addressing climate change, making sure that the rights of all of our citizens are properly held up and people stand up for it. We could talk about universal health care and Medicare for all. These are all important issues. But I believe there's an overriding issue, and I believe that because that's what I'm hearing from you and talking to other people. In the last 30, 60, 90 days, there is a concern around our country and here. It's not just about Russia. It's about common decency in politics, one, and two, that the foundations and institutions that are the basis of our democracy are under attack. They're not just under attack from foreign powers, which we expect, that's the rule of the world, that happens, but it's from within. The President of the United States is leading the attack against institutions that are the basis of our democracy, whether it is the FBI, whether it is the intelligence agencies, or whether it's the fourth estate, which is the news and journalism that protects us by asking questions and looking for answers that we deserve. And the victims of that are us and working families across the United States. Those that are least able to fight back are the victims of this discourse. I'm fearful for our democracy right now. I truly am. I'm fearful for our democracy, for our kids and our grandkids. And unfortunately, we've got a lot of spineless Republicans who are part of this. Now, I'll give some credit. You know, McCain and Flick standing up and fighting for what they believe is true. But there are too many Republicans sitting on their hands and failing to stand up and do their moral obligation, their ethical obligation, to do what? Serve we the people. Yes. So, it's clear it's time we need to make a change across the United States. We need to have a Congress dominated by at least a majority of Democrats. Yeah. And we need it just to keep check and balance in place on Trump and his cohorts and the administration in general. I do believe that we will see the Democrats take back the House. I have no doubt it's going to happen. And I'm hopeful it's a lot more than 23 seats. I'm hoping for more like 40, 50, 60, even more. And Bloomberg just came out this week and has moved the Senate to a 50-50. I wish we could move the White House to a 50-50. But we'll have to wait on that. So look, we've got a tough race in front of us. I feel really good about the polling. I feel really good. We have 3,000 volunteers behind this campaign, and I know there are a ton of you guys in here. I know you're going to be canvassing for us on Saturday. Thank you. But we've got a long way to go. We cannot take for granted that we can win this election by doing anything less than giving 100%. Dana Rohrabacher's won 15 elections. Right? 15 times. Let's not take anything for granted. Let's do everything we can. I had the opportunity to see President Obama about a month ago, and he had just endorsed our campaign yesterday, which it was really cool. But meeting him, other than being a nervous wreck doing that, and I'll share two things when I met him. One was he talked a lot about our country being on two paths. And the path that we have that is being driven by Trump and his supporters and those in Congress and the Senate that are supporting him. And us, and the majority of Americans who voted for Hillary Clinton. And he talked about what those two paths mean. And it was really, up here. But then he brought it down to right here. He said, if you're in your living room and you're watching MSNBC or you're watching CNN and you're saying, holy camole, what is going on in our country? What is happening with our government? That's not enough. If you truly believe civilization and our democracy is at risk with the current direction it's going, then you need to do something about it. Here's what you need to do. It's the first time I've ever seen President Obama actually angry, because he's always been such a class act in the way he carries himself. But with a little bit of admonishment and anger in his voice, he says, if you want to make a difference, then get out and vote. And if you have voted, get out and help others vote. And if you have gotten out and helped others vote, then give money to help others vote. And those are words that are very true. Because we know in this last election in 2016, we have a president in the White House because too many people failed to vote. Too many people took for granted that Hillary was going to win. And we cannot take for granted any of these races, including this one. And the other thing I'll share with you that there was a little bit of Q&A with President Obama, and Leader Pelosi was the moderator. And I tend to be a little antsy, so we've been sitting for a while, and I got a little antsy, and my wife is always trying to make me sit down and be calmer, but I wasn't. So I kind of worked my way over to where the water was and the coffee and the service was. I was kind of hanging out in the back, you know, as they continued. And Leader Pelosi goes, well, we have time for one more question. How about Harley Rouda from California's 48th? And honestly, you know, probably the first time in a year and a half, I was speechless. And fortunately, Leader Pelosi continued to talk for a few minutes while I tried to gather my thoughts. He was like, I mean, you're asking a question of the President of the United States, and it's like, it better be good. And so it was about getting millennials out to vote, but his answer is fairly predictable. It was being authentic and using social media and other stuff. But here was a part that was like nerve-wracking. President Obama does a really good job of holding eye contact, and I mean, he's literally like piercing my soul because it as president can be a little long-winded. So it was probably only 3 minutes, but it felt like 15 minutes. And he's just sitting there looking at me, and then as he's looking at me, you know, it's like, wait, put your hands in your pockets. No, stop smiling so much. And, I kind of felt like the middle schooler at the dance, you know, very nervous. But anyway, he's a remarkable man. Those were words of wisdom as to what we have in front of us. And we all need to get out there and work as hard as we can to make sure we flip